Love, light, and blessings. This is Shamanic Awak Priestess here, and I thought I would do a very fun tag video. I know I'm really bad at not making tag videos and things like that because I usually don't know how to answer things on videos, and I don't know, I just feel like I'm not that interesting when like my responses are not that interesting when I do tag videos. Maybe that's just me. That's how I feel. Anyways, but I love watching them. So I recently saw this tag. I don't know who's the original creator of this tag, but I did see two videos. So I'm going to link those videos. I'm going to try to link those videos down below. I'm not good at tech stuff, but I am going to at least try to mention them. So I saw it on Athena Blacks channel. And then I also saw it on a second channel, which when I saw this video, I subscribed. I love her video very much. And then I started watching other people's tag videos. And she's She Who Walks Between Worlds. I believe that's the name of her channel. She has a great video. I love her distinct perspective, and there are things in her path that really do resonate with me, and things that kind of just very much interest me. So I love watching witchy channels. Those are like my favorite things to watch. So okay, so the first question is age. So how old am I? I am proud to be 39 years old. My location is my family is from Puerto Rico and Haiti, but I currently live in the United States, and I'm located in Pennsylvania. Family. So I live with but I am a divorced mother of four. So I have my oldest daughter who's 18. I have my second oldest, a 16-year-old boy. I have a third child. He's 12 years old. And he's the one that I made a video about being autistic and stuff like that. So my two boys have different, they're on the different spectrum of autism. So I made a video about that if you guys are interested in watching that. And then my youngest is 5 years old. Um, your YouTube name explanation. So how did I come up with my YouTube name? So I work on the psychic hotlines for 3 years, and I had a different name. And I was able to be a full-time, and still am, a full-time psychic reader. That is 95% of my income. And it's the way that I sustain and support my family. And so I worked exclusively on a psychic hotline for 3 years professionally. I've been in this path for 13. And then about a year ago, my spirits, my ancestors, my guides were telling me it's time to, there were some changes that happened on the psychic hotline. I'm not going to say what site it is. For those that have followed me throughout that, please don't mention the site on there, because they're kind of, they like to get people in trouble and legal stuff, and I'm just not in the mood for that. So anyway, so about a year ago, I made my own site, and I was having like just a lot of evolutions, and again, I just felt like I wasn't getting anything anymore from the psychic hotlines. I didn't like the new people that bought the hotline. The previous owners for 3 years were very good to their employees, and I like the way that they ran the site. I didn't like the new changes they made. It just started to feel very materialistic, and they just were doing practices that I don't agree with. So it wasn't good for my spirit. It wasn't good for my growth. So I was still working both the psychic and the site for the first 6 months. I also created a channel about a year ago. So when I made my site, I created my channel. I wanted to separate the name that I had, which is a name that I dreamed of. My spirit guides gave me that specific name on the site, and that was the name that I used on the psychic hotline. When I branched off to my own private clients, spirits gave me a different name, and that was Shamanic Awak Priestess. The reason why I call myself Shamanic Awak Priestess is because I come from a long line of shamans. I come from a long lines of espiritistas, right? Dating back all the way for the earliest that I could date it back to 1850. So that's why I call myself shamanic, because at the time I was not initiated, and I did a video about getting initiated in September, and I did. So I got initiated this year, but because I wanted to be respectful to those who are initiated shamans, I was calling myself shamanic. That was the name the spirits gave me. And Arawak, because I am of Taino descent, Arawak Indians from the Caribbeans, and the native indigenous people, the first inhabitants before Christopher Columbus colonized and basically terrorized the Caribbean, as did the Spaniards later on. Um, they were the first people. So Tainos were in Haiti, Tainos were in Puerto Rico, Santo Domingo, Cuba, and a lot of Jamaica. Like a lot of the Caribbean people are have Arawak and Taino ancestry and ancestors. Okay, and then of course African blood as well from mostly the main tribes that were part of the African diaspora. So that's why I call myself shamanic, because I practice Taino shamanism, but I also practice African shamanism, because Africans do have shaman, they are healers, they do have those practices in their spirituality. So that's why. And Arawak again for the tribe, the Taino tribe that I'm from, and priestess because I am an initiated priestess. Okay, so that's why I have that name. And like I was saying before, for the first 6 months, I did the psychic hotline and the site. And as of the last 6 months, I've been able to, haven't been back to the site. Don't know if I'm coming back, but kind of been on a hiatus status and just been exclusively working with private clients and able to sustain myself and my family with that. So that's my YouTube name. And I made a YouTube channel because I wanted to share my path and I was ready. I had a lot of fear of making a YouTube channel because I was like, I know that I think differently sometimes than some people, and I don't know. I just didn't want to trigger anybody, I guess. But, I had to be comfortable with myself and say it's okay to put myself out there, whether you take the good and the bad. You're going to have your critics, but you're going to have the ones that support you as well. So, how many years as a pagan? So when we're talking about paganism, that's a tricky question. I do feel that I'm part of the witchy community. I am part of the tarot community because I am a professional reader, and tarot is a big part of my spiritual practice. And I do practice witchcraft. But I don't know if I would consider myself a pagan. I have studied paganism, and I also studied Wicca for a year and a day. And the reason why I say that is because I know some people say they're crystal pagans. I don't resonate with that label either, because I do believe in a Christ-like consciousness. Maybe not what Christianity says Christ is, but I do believe in a Christ-like consciousness. When I first got in this path, I started working with angels and saints, and then it evolved to the Orishas and the Loas and ancestors and things like that. So I do believe in the devil as well. And from the literature that I got from paganism, most pagans don't believe in the devil and don't really believe in Christ, and they believe in more than one God, like God and goddesses. And that is something that doesn't resonate with my path. I don't really, it's not that I don't believe, but I don't work with God and goddesses. I work again with Loas and Orishas, which are different than God and goddesses. So I don't know if I'm classify myself as a pagan because a lot of things in paganism, it's not incorporated in my practice. I also do not prescribe to do no harm. That is something I do absolutely don't believe in. I don't knock anybody else who does, but I feel that no matter what good intentions we have, you're basically going to do harm. Some people might say you collect a lot of decks. You're killing trees. That's doing harm. But to that person, they're not, because that's what they like to do. Some person might say, hey, you use beeswax candle in your practice. That's not good because we have a decrease in bees, and bees are important. So some people might say, hey, you do blood magic. That's doing harm to yourself. So it's something that it doesn't resonate with me. You know what I mean? I feel like my belief is this. I walk in the two things. I believe that there's a place for light and there's a place for shadow. And I believe to be a whole and balanced person, you have to walk in both the light and the shadow. I also believe in spirit in my practice. I have to know how to heal, but I also need to know how to protect myself spiritually, whether that is cursing somebody, sending negativity back to that person, or having to hex somebody. So I know all of it. Even if I don't go out and hex everybody, because that's something I really don't do, I still know how to do it. If I have to do it, I have to do it. That kind of thing. Also, in African traditional religion, there are certain practices that I've read books on paganism that is kind of against some of the things that they say are the principles of what a pagan is. I eat meat. Which I'm sure there's pagans that don't, that eat meat too. But I'm just saying, like, and I do believe I don't go out there killing animals. Like, that's a very common misconception. But I know that there's a place in certain traditions for animal offerings because they're not sacrifices. It is more humane than when they have agricultural farms. They go around abusing animals and then live in disgusting conditions. And a lot of people don't have a problem buying a hamburger that they know was treated disgustingly, right? Unless you're buying organic and know that you're buying cage-free meat, which is what I do. But not everybody does that. So, you when someone does a offering for in a lot of traditions when it comes to an animal, first and foremost, it's rarely done, and it's by someone who is of a higher, um, basically they're indoctrinated, they're initiated, they are taught how to do it as humanely as possible. The animal is prayed for, so it's no different than when someone does kosher or when someone is eating halal meat that is cooked for, that is killed in certain religious practices. That animal then, once it's drained of all the blood and everything, like I said, it's one cut just to die quickly. It's no different than when I lived with my ex-fiance and he was a farmer and I saw him, you know, slicing the chickens when he was getting ready to sell that meat to make a living. A lot of people in a lot of countries cannot afford vegetables or fruits and things like that. And so sometimes that meat, that the animal that they raised, is the only meal they're going to get that day. That food is then not only prayed over, it is cooked. The first offering of the cooked food is given to the spirits. And then the community comes together in that healing ritual ceremony, and that meat feeds the whole community. Islam does the same thing. When they're having a birth of a baby, they kill the animal in a ritual and things like that and pray over it, and then they share that food with the less fortunate. So it's an idea that's practiced in many things. So it gets a bad stigma because of Hollywood and what people show, these horrible people torturing animals, and there's just a lot of falsehood in that. Um, but in African traditional religion, you don't necessarily have to do that. I'm just saying that there are people that do that. And I like to respect cultures of other parts of the world because that's their culture. I'm not in their government and I don't understand their life. I live here. I have more access to a lot of things. I don't have to do certain things. But there are people in this world that have to do that. And I respect that because that's where the religions came from. Okay, so with that being said, that's why it's a kind of hard for me. I don't know if I'm considered a pagan. I respect paganism. I study paganism. But I don't know if African traditional religions or Piritimo necessarily fall under that umbrella. So that's a very long answer. But in the path of my spiritual path, I've been in it for 13 years. Okay, so my favorite part of the path that I'm in, my favorite part of the path that I'm in is being able to do it on a full-time basis, being able to use my psychic ability to help others, being able to use shamanic practices to heal clients and do healing work and see the positive changes that, what my spirituality has helped other people with positive changes, has inspired some to join the same path. So I love that. I love the learning aspect of it. I love the fact that I feel like not only do I feel empowered, but I can make others feel empowered. Like there's power in us and all around us. And I love that aspect. Instead of feeling like, oh yeah, human beings are made flawed and you're going to go to hell and all this stuff, because I don't really prescribe to the hell thing. I like to know that, yes, we're imperfect. We're both light. We're both dark. And that the spirits that we serve at times are not perfect. They have their light and dark aspects. So I like the lack of judgment and the sense of empowerment. So that's my favorite parts of the path. When it comes to stones or crystals, which ones do I connect with the most? I would, if I would have made this video 6 months ago, I would have said maybe selenite because I have a lot of selenite. But recently, the crystal that I've been connecting on the deepest level has been labradorite. I have a lot of different pieces of labradorite. And the reason why I love labradorite, it's very shamanic in nature, and everybody knows that's like the main foundation of my spirituality. And I find it so good for dream work, connecting on a very deep and spiritual level. It's such a high vibrational crystal, and it's good for ancestral communications. I use it for workings, rituals, healings, meditation, just so many, many, many different things. And even when I'm reading somebody and I just want to like, before I read, I like to touch this crystal between readings and get up my vibrations. It's just a great communicator. It's great for when you're doing like vision quests and things, which I do. Like, it's just a very overall powerful crystal, and I don't know where I will be without it. Like, I adore it. So, totem animal. I have spirit animals, but I'm gonna only share one. One of my spirit animals is the black raven, the raven. And I remember one time when the raven came into my life, I was going through a really hard time. And I have only worked with the Morrigan, like served her once in my life. I was going through a very big transitional period. And I studied all I can study about the Morrigan and tried to um, serve her in her tradition. And when she had messages with me back then, she would come as a raven. And I remember one time, ravens are not very common here. I live in the city. I remember one time there was wall-to-wall ravens on the power line. I mean, like all over the place. And something really big and significant happened, which I'm not going to get into here. So I know when I see a raven, there's major shadow work to be done. There's also me having to see the dark side of things and me having to really work on self and dealing with something really big. Not the best of situations. So negative things, losses, those emotions that a lot of times we don't want to deal with. In my practice, it's very important to deal with all emotions. There's a place for all feelings, love, hate, all of it. So it all balances itself out. So when I say hate, like, I hate the fact that people hurt children, or I hate the fact that there's thousands of children right now that are being separated from their parents who try to cross the border. So hate. I don't hate people, but I hate injustices. So that's what I mean by there's a place. There's a time when we need to be like, I hate that. Let's do something else, right? New moon or full moon. So I am more of a full moon person. I do a lot of work in the full moon. I struggle with the energies of the new moon. So that's a lot of protection work for me. Yeah, the new moon is something that I recently started to learn how to work with those energies to my benefit. But it is a moon that I really do struggle with. Okay, top 2 witchy and pagan books. So I have a lot of books, so it took me a while to figure out which 2 I was going to put. So I chose these books, and I'm going to explain why. So the first one is the Handbook of Yoruba Religious Concepts by Baba Ifa Karode. And the reason why I like this book is because I like the way that he explains the orishas, kind of like angelic beings. He tries to, he gives like English prayers and Yoruba prayers in there. He talks about the prayers you do. He talks about how the 7 powers, you can relate them to chakra. So he tries to explain how Ifa relates to a lot of other different religious practices like Islam, Christianity, and how the Patakis, their religious writings, their religious stories relate to other paths. So, for instance, in Ifa, this is a phrase: to be told and to like it, to be given advice and to accept it, to take advice in order to know what the world is like. So that's an Ifa. That's a parable. Now he's going to relate it to a Christian, biblical one. Hear counsel and receive instruction that thou mayest be wise in the latter end, Proverbs 19:20. Then he's going to relate it to African proverbs. Advise and counsel them. If they do not learn, let adversity teach them. And that's a saying in Ethiopia. So he'll do things like that. There's one he does Asian spirituality. Like, so he does different paths. We'll have parables so he could show like a lot of our religions have a lot of things in common, or a lot of our spiritual path have a lot of things in common. So I like that. So for anybody who's a non-initiate or an outsider, it gives them a better understanding of Ifa and Orishas. And then the next book is Llewellyn's Complete Book of Correspondences, because I make my own oils and spirit waters and things like that. And most of my practice is working with roots. This has a lot of common household stuff, rare stuff. There's crystals, correspondences in here. I mean, there's a lot of stuff for people that are trying to make a ritual, want to learn more about working. So it's a good reference book for what kind of intentions you could set when you work with crystals or herbs or things like that. So, and this is from Llewellyn, and it's by Sandra Kynes. So those are the two books that I chose. What is my heritage? Okay, so my heritage is predominantly of African descent. Again, I am, when it comes to cultural heritage, I am Puerto Rican and Haitian. Haitian from my grandfather. He was Haitian and migrated to Puerto Rico because of things that were going on in the government in Haiti. And he was trying to escape. And, you know, he met my grandmother and they had my mom. So that kind of stuff. But yeah, but he kind of just assimilated at the time because there was a lot of stigma. And there is still stigma sometimes, and misconceptions of the religion of voodoo. And a lot of times Haitian and Haiti gets a bad rap. So he was a very dark-skinned man, and at the time that he came to Puerto Rico, there was a lot of prejudice and colorism and things like that. So he kind of just passed himself off as Puerto Rican, but he never left his religion. And then, so most of my heritage genetics is African, and then the second most that I have is Spanish, because as everybody knows, the islands in the Caribbean were invaded by the Spaniards after Christopher Columbus left. And so I have a significant amount of Spaniard in me, almost as much as I have African. And then the third race that I have is Native American ancestry, which is the Taino Arawak Indians, which were the first inhabitants of Puerto Rico. And then the fourth, it will be Italian. And of course that makes sense because of the Christopher Columbus. So those, but I identify mostly as an African indigenous Taino, Afro Taino. That's so a Puerto Rican Afro. So yeah. And but that's basically, I'm a mixed race person. Okay, so, and I have an ancestry video that explains more about that on this channel if you're interested in that. Okay, so the elements you resonate with the most. So the elements that I resonate with the most would be all of them. And the reason why is I work with as much fire as I do water. Water is a very, very big element in my practice. I use water for a lot of things. Water is very good for conjuring up spirits. Water is very good for cleansing, spiritual baths. Water is good. It's a very important component in misas espirituales, investigaciones espirituales, and things like that. So, and it's also good for divination. So water is a very big practice, a very big element in my practice. Fire as well, because fire is also good. I use it a lot in my ritual spell work and things like that. Air is important. I use that as well. So, I mean, I need the air to light the incense. So, And earth. Earth, I use a lot because most crystals come from earth. So crystals are also important in my practice. So I have to say, and I even use different kind of dirts in my practice. So um, all the elements are important. There's no one element that I use more than the other. There's no, to me, you can't have one without the other. They all are interrelated and they're all part of my practice. So oracle, tarot, or both. Okay, so I read professionally, and the only thing that I use when I read the only thing that I use when I read professionally, my goodness, is tarot. One deck, and that's it. And when I do live readings, so there's no spreads, there's no fancy stuff. Like it's just straight up reading, channeling and that kind of stuff. So, but I just use tarot. Oracle decks are more for self-work for myself. So I'll pull one tarot card and one oracle card a day. But yeah, I mostly just use tarot, and I have 5 main working decks. Now it's 6 because I just bought the Borderless Centennial, which is the deck that I'm currently working with when it comes to my readings. So that's it. I don't own a lot of decks, and I adore and love Rider-Waite. So like this is my working deck that I'm working with at the moment. I love that it's borderless. Oh, see, it's upside down too. But yeah. So tarot. Oracle is more for personal work. I own more Oracle than tarot. Are you a closeted witch? That's kind of a complex answer, and I'm going to tell you why. Um, I'm very open about my spirituality. So I have a spirit room, and like I just had an inspection today, and like um they have to go in the rooms and stuff and see if everything's up to code, blah blah blah. Like they've been in my room. I'm like, yep, I have a prayer room. Like that doesn't, whatever, like my landlord knows what I do. When I moved in here, I was like, I do have private clients. I do readings from home. That's how I sustain myself, because you have to prove your income when you're moving into a place, and I live in a 2-family house. So when I was renting the upstairs, I let him know where my income came from and showed him all my like financial records and all that stuff. So he knows that I'm a shaman. Um, if somebody's talking to me about spirituality and I see that the conversation is leading to something that resonates with me, and they're kind of like wondering, I tell them this is what I do for a living. Sometimes I've gotten clients like that just from the street, strangers. I have a YouTube channel. My mom taught me a lot of things, and I've also learned a lot of things from books and from teachers that have come into my life. So the people that are most closest to me know what I do, but a lot of people are afraid of the word witch. So the word witch is something I don't really use. I'll say shaman, spiritual person, spiritual healer, that kind of thing, because there's like negative feelings about witches. And at the end of the day, like I don't feel that I need to just be like, yeah, this is what I do. Because like, yes, spirituality is a big part of my life, but it's not the only part of my life. If the conversation leads to it, or somebody asks, or somebody's in my home, you're gonna see certain things. Then they're gonna let you know that I'm into the metaphysical. But I don't go, because like this area right here is in my living room. So when you come into my home, you're gonna see angels and dream catchers and chakra flags and all these things and decks and my ancestor altars right in my living room. So it's not like I hide it, but at the same time, I don't just start talking about it, because I don't like when people preach their religion to me. So I try to always be respectful of others, because everybody that I know has a different spiritual path. But if somebody asks me, then I'm open and I'll answer. Do you work with or connect with a specific, I don't know why, but for some reason I can't talk now. Do you work with or connect with a specific deity? I'm not going to redo this video. I'm just going to let the mistakes be on there. Okay. So do I work with any or connect with a specific deity? So yes, yes, and yes. I've always worked with a deity. When I first got into this path, they were angels. I remember my first spiritual book was the Angel Bible, and I healed the chakras to the angels, the 7 powers, the 7 angels. And I studied in duology and things like that. And then my path changed to more of working with the saints. And then, in my opinion, when I learned who the saints were, the Orishas started to come in strong, as did the Loas. So then I started studying the religion of Ifa, and I started studying the religion of Voodoo for the Loas. And I've had teachers come into my life, and I got initiated in my spiritual path and things like that. In Espiritismo, which is the foundation of everything. So I've always worked with deities. The spirits that I work with and ancestors, I have 22, well, now it's 23. I have 23 spirits that have come to me. There's others, but they've left. They have come to me and say, you're going to serve me. And they come and they go, but for the main part, I serve 23 individual spiritual entities, or AKA deities. So yes, I do. They are the foundation of my practice. Each of these spirits have offerings. Each of the spirits have their own altar space, shrine, if you will, candles that are lit to them, and things of that nature. They all have candles. They all have offerings. They all have days of the week that I serve them, days of the year that they have spiritual feasts for. So yes, it's a lot of work, but these spirits get attention. And my whole spiritual practice is about these spirits. I mean, the main focus of Vodum is the Loas. The main focus of Ifa is the Orishas. The main focus of being a psychic medium is working with spirits. You know, being an espiritista is working with your spirit guides and your spirit court. So I serve 23 different spirits. So yes, that's a very, very, very important aspect of my spirituality. I hope that you liked this video, and I hope that you got to know me. I cannot believe I talked for like 31 minutes, but I am very grateful for all of my subscribers. And please like and subscribe and comment. And let me know what you think. And let me know if you're going to make a VR to the Get to Know Me tag, because I would love to watch them. Much love, light, and blessings. Thank you so much for watching this video. And until the next video, guys, bye.